Welcome to the EDI Path Invite. I'm your host, Anna, and this is part two of implicit bias. And just as I mentioned previously, having implicit bias does not make you a bad person. We all have it. If you have a brain, you have bias. So we want to know, how does this work in our brain? So the first thing that happens when we encounter another person is in less than 1 second, our brain would decide if this person is like me or not like me. And this happens again in less than 1 second. And then the second step is based on the data from our environment. We categorize again these person as to age, gender, and race. And now again, this all happens very fast. It's not something we do consciously. So for example, Adam Grant, who's an organizational psychologist and teaches at a university, someone mentioned to him that they had observed that when calling on his student, he would mainly or favored the first 8 students. They were white males. And Dan Harris, who founded a company, he's a journalist, and one of his employees sent him an email saying that, how come all the full-time employees in the company were male and the female employees were part-timers. And they both talk about how, insulted they felt and how wronged they felt when this was pointed out to them. So what happens in our brain when these observations are pointed out to us? So the first, there's 2 areas of the brain that get activated when our brain receives information that contradicts our beliefs. And these are the amygdala and the insular cortex. So the amygdala, as we know, is a fear center of the brain. And that insular cortex is an area that integrates feelings, that we receive from our bodies. And it's an important area to process feelings such as disgust. And they compare it to feeling like spoiled food, like that feeling we get when we encounter spoiled food. And, the previous examples, they, in both cases, they got very defensive. Dan Harris talked about how insulted he felt. He felt that he had been raised by a professionally successful mother who was a physician. He was very supportive of his wife, and how dare someone tell him that he was favoring male employees. But once he removed the emotion out of the situation, he actually had to acknowledge that the facts were right. The female employees were part-timers. The senior leadership were 3 white males. Full-time employees were mostly male, all male. And, it's just the awareness of the situation, and that's when you start to question why you made the decisions you make, etc. And, just to stop you from rolling your eyes too much, the whole point of the scientific process is to gather new information and data and update our models of the world. There was a time when we thought the earth was flat. There was a time where the medical profession ran ads in their journals promoting cigarettes. In our own profession, pathology, there was a time where non-invasive follicular neoplasm with papillary-like nuclear features did not exist. And we just called everything papillary thyroid carcinoma. So, when we get new information, we change. But it is more of a challenge when this new information is tied to our beliefs and our identity as a person. And so those are the challenges we face when we're dealing with bias. So the first is defensive. We don't want to admit we have biases, and it's very uncomfortable, and it's very hard to admit that yes, we have them and we're wrong. Um, Another challenge is the futility of this, because we all have it. So what's the point of even trying? And then there's the hopefuls like me, like yes, let's do something about it, but what? Like, what can we do? So I would just say to start developing an awareness on this. Try and see how these biases affect your decision making and how it affects people around you. And if you're so inclined, there's a lot of resources, evidence-based resources that can, help you with this. And then maybe your conscience will catch up to your unconscious. And I would just, challenge you this week to see if you detect any biases and how they affect your own personal decision making. Can you notice if there's other biases in others around you? And these are the resources and references. And that's it. Thank you.